Hey everyone, this is Car Ray Rob.
Where I'm Ray.
And I'm Rob. And we want to welcome you to our podcast, Hello Movies, My Old Friend. Hello, movies. Hello, movies. Hello, movies. My old friend.
All right, guys, we are back with another episode of Hello Movies, My Old Friend. Rob, what do we do on this again?
On Hello Movies, we revisit old classics from our childhood.
That's right.
Ones we haven't seen in a long time, but we want to go back and see if we still love them, have that nostalgic feeling that we had when we originally watched it.
Yes, and this movie, I don't know if I'm going to. Everything I read tells me I won't.
Yeah, that is fair. It almost makes me wonder if I ever really liked this movie. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, did we like this movie or not? So we are going to find out if we liked this movie, which was the 1997 superhero film Spawn.
Spawn. Yes, we are. It gets pretty ragged for some horrible CGI effects now, but I think back then, I do think I remember him putting the suit on and that looking really cool. And I do think that will hold up. In my brain, it super holds up.
Well, that's the whole problem with this show, is it seems like these things hold up in our brain.
Yes.
But then when we see them in our eyes, not so much.
Our brain's recollection of what we really saw it has a lot of times failed us.
Yeah, and I love the character Spawn. You know, they had the animated series back in the 90s.
Animated series
was great.
Yeah, that was it was R-rated.
Right, very R-rated.
It was late on HBO, and you had to watch it very quietly in volume low. But it was super cool. Spawn is super cool. You know, a guy he's made a deal with the devil to come back to his life and protect his daughter. There's a lot of heart there. I love the McFarlane toys, which is obviously a huge thing now, but the Spawn figures were always incredibly awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And the cast isn't terrible. You know, Micheal Jai White is Spawn.
Yep.
You got John Lequizamo, you got Martin Sheen, Teresa Randall, D.B Sweeney. I mean, it's not terrible.
There's a lot to work with.
Yeah.
So like I said, I remember loving it. I think I liked the action. I thought there were some cool set pieces. I do vividly remember I kind of thought this would be cooler, or they cut this out and changed it to this. You know, when you're younger, you start to see some of that stuff of what they do when they translate properties that you like to movies, and you start to notice some of that stuff. And so,
well, especially now, you know, where all of these comic book properties seem to be being made into big screen movies. Yeah. So it's like this was kind of at a time when that was still relatively new.
Yeah.
You know, I know we did Barbed Wire.
Right.
You know, and that for a copy of a copy.
Might be the same year. Was that 97?
I think that was earlier.
Yeah.
But I think it was 96.
Okay.
But either way, either way, it was the same deal where, you know, you've got this comic property and, you know, you're making it into a feature film, kind of like Tank Girl and stuff like that. That was all kind of in this stretch of time. And none of them really became franchises as they are now, it seems like, with the MCU or the DCEU or whatever. But this is kind of more of like a Wild Wild West period, I guess, of this type of adaptation.
Yeah, I don't know if it was the technology wasn't caught up enough yet, or Hollywood wasn't ready to take him serious enough yet. You know, X-Men and Spider-Man were when that really turned the corner.
Yeah.
So Spawn is kind of this B-rate movie now.
Yeah. I remember us seeing it for the first time.
I vividly remember.
I was going to say, you're okay. So we're not going to tell you the story yet, but we will titilize you with that. They have a very funny story about the first time that Ray and I saw this. We saw it in the theater together in 1997.
I'm not sure if this was the first time we saw it, if we went and saw it a second time. But we'll tell the story.
Yeah, I'm not. I think so, but you might be right. But either way, we saw it in the theater, and we have a very funny story to go along with that. But you know, we have fond memories of that. But we got to find out if we got fond memories of Spawn.
Yeah.
And if they live, I should say, if Spawn lives up, maybe, to those fond memories.
If you haven't seen Spawn in a minute, and you're not sure if you're going to like it, if you haven't seen Spawn at all, or if you have seen it and you hate it, just go watch it one more time.
Yeah, let's do it.
Just go watch it. We're going to do it. So pause the podcast.
Hate watch it if you want.
Yeah, exactly. Hate watch it. That might be what we're about to do. We're going to find out. So pause the podcast if you want to do any of those things. And after you do, come back and listen to what me and Rob have to say about Spawn, and let's see if it holds up.
Fingers crossed.
Ray and Rob are currently watching the film. You may be also watching the film. If you're not, then you're listening to me say that Ray and Rob are watching the film. They'll be right back when they're done watching the film.
All right, everyone. Ray and I are back from hell. And I got to say, it looked like garbage down there.
Hot garbage.
Hot garbage. Man, I don't know what they thought they were creating, but if that's what hell looks like, never mind. I actually totally believe
it would not be a pleasant place to go. So I get that. It's very uncomfortable, those scenes in hell. They're not good.
Yeah, it's kind of almost like taking you out of the movie a little bit.
I mean, I think video game, like CGI basically is what it looks like. Like PS1 video game
Yeah,
stuff.
maybe, yeah. I could, definitely. In 64, PS1, definitely. But, so, okay. I'm just gonna pull this Band-Aid off now. The CGI, for the most part in this movie, is god-awful and has aged like garbage. So I don't want to focus on that, though.
Yeah, we don't just bash it the whole time.
Yeah, because we could literally sit here for 30 minutes and talk about how bad this CGI is. And I don't want to do that. So let's touch on a couple points.
The really distracting stuff.
Yeah, let's talk about some of the really distracting stuff and a couple of the good things. And then let's just move on because it's the lowest of low-hanging fruit, and that would just not be a very interesting conversation.
I agree. And so we already mentioned hell. Like,
hell's the worst.
I don't get what they're doing with, like, the devil.
Malbolgia.
Malebolgia
or Malebolgia.
Well, he looked like male balls. Like, it's not good.
It was really bad.
It was bad. Like,
mouth didn't move.
Yeah, like I couldn't tell. Like, is his mouth open, but he's speaking psychically?
Psychically, yeah, maybe. Telepathically.
Yeah, telepathically, or they just didn't know how to move his mouth and make him stick together without clipping.
That one. It was that one.
Yeah, so that was bad. I mean, that was horrible. Like, I didn't even know, like, when they're in hell and he's surrounded by his army. Up until the last scene, I did not realize that those were all supposed to be mini, like, people in Spawn outfits as well.
Right.
Because they were just so little and just like just
their
randomly
movements
moving.
Were very like kinetic and weird. Yeah. No, I agree. I think I remembered that from maybe originally seeing it.
That they were.
Yeah, that they were. But yeah, as far as like the visual of it, I couldn't tell. No. I agree. I think there were a lot of little things that were terrible. Some of the little effects, some of the stuff with the Violator, I thought were like, sort of like had his long tongue. Like I remember like when Wanda is like tied up and he's like got the long tongue and it like goes around her face. Like some of that stuff was just really bad.
Yeah. Anything that was like outlined in the greenish hues, like the magical green, like it didn't seem like it was resonating from the characters. It really looked like it was just painted on top of them.
Right. Absolutely.
It's not part of the scene.
I feel like the cape was like 50-50. I thought there were some decent shots with the cape and some horrible shots with the cape.
I think the cape is just lit wrong. It's too bright. It looks like it doesn't fit the scenes. It looks like it's independently lit.
Yeah.
Like it's really bright when they're in a dark alley.
Yeah. It's like obviously I love music. I'm a musician, and so like I kind of think of it this way: like there's certain vocal production that I really hate where it like sits on top of the music and it doesn't feel like it's actually like part of the music.
Yeah.
That's kind of what this felt like as well. It's like it wasn't part of the visual. It was, like you said, kind of painted on, just kind of stuck on top of it.
Yeah, and it's too big. It's too big.
It's too big.
It's like 40 yards long. It's like he's
big.
Not going to walk around with a cape like that.
Yeah.
But one great shot with it looking big.
Yeah, I was gonna say that the one good shot of it was where he was standing on top of the church and like the cape was like flowing out.
That's straight out of the comics too. But I thought when he broke through the ceiling, like the first time we see the cape, it's so big you can't even see. Like it's just totally distracting from like him, Spawn even entering the room. It's like, guys, look at this cool cape entering the room. It's like, no, I want to see Spawn looking badass as he enters the room.
Right, flowing behind him or something. Yeah. But, I can agree with that. The one thing, and I'll say, best part of the movie... Let me say
one thing more about the cape then.
Oh, okay, yeah, go ahead.
I hated that we had a cape transition before we ever actually saw the cape. Like, they used the cape to, like, transition between a scene, and it was before we ever had seen him with the cape. So I'm like, why are you spoiling this effect or this like, reveal of the cape when he crashed through the ceiling if and using it as a transition. That really bothered me. I'm not sure why.
That's interesting. I didn't even think about it, but that is I totally agree. Maybe they thought it would be some kind of a teaser.
I guess.
Yeah, maybe that was it. Maybe like a little teaser for the people who knew what was coming.
Yeah.
That maybe
Cave's coming up, guys. We didn't forget about it.
Right, it's gonna be great. But before I jump to the good stuff, as we're talking about the cape, I think the other half of that is the claws.
Yeah.
The hooks or whatever.
From his little grappling belt from his shoulders.
Right. Like I think some of those. I think most of those look like garbage. Maybe a couple good ones, but I think they're the same kind of issue though. Yeah. Where it was just like it did not seem like it was part of the suit. It was just kind of on top of the suit.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but the best I would think in my mind the best CGI effect in the whole movie is the Violator. The initial Violator transition scene where he goes from clown to creature. I thought that was great. I thought that whole scene of the fight was great. I thought it looked good. It looked real. I'd be curious if some of it was practical.
I think I would bet money that they had a practical like 10-foot Violator, or at least
sections of it.
Yeah, section of it where they could like zoom in on the face. I think the zoom ins on the face and stuff was definitely I felt practical, but still even there was plenty of shots that were CGI.
Right, and those transitions between, even if there were, practical and CGI, the transitions between those two
were good.
Good, and I think that whole fight scene was great because of it.
Yeah, and I think that's being smart, like as a filmmaker, because it's an ill-lit area, so you can have a really dark, version of this. You don't have to show everything. It doesn't have to look super photorealistic because it's so dark, and that's in 1998. That would be a really smart way to do that because you don't have perfect look. It's not going to look photorealistic, so light it dimly, like let it just do its thing. It's hiding a lot, which is smart too. Like, makes the scene more impactful. So yeah, that was a good scene. They did that well, and I have read before that they like spent 8 months on that one transition from clown to Violator.
It shows.
Yeah,
compared to everything else in this movie, it shows.
I'm sure you could do that in a week now, but they really wanted to nail that. And
8 months on that transition, 8 minutes on hell.
Yeah, that was not good. So
yeah, but so that's it. I'm sure that
nothing else distractingly bad CGI wise that we have to comment on.
Exactly. I think from now on there might be a little mention of it here and there, but that is it. Overall, the CGI was horrible. It did not age well for the most part, but there was some stuff, that did. It's fair and unfair to say it. It was 1997, so you get what you get, but it's still bad CGI either way.
Yeah, pretty much. Now I will say, one thing that I remember being cool was just Spawn's overall look.
Yeah.
And I think for the most part, I pretty much still like the suit.
Yeah, I can agree.
Yeah, I think so. I thought they did a good job, CGI wise, of when he took his mask on and off. I thought that looked fine. Those transitions. I liked like the bit of the sliminess to the suit.
Yeah.
I can't remember the word that Clown kept using when he described it, but it was something like it was a living being of in itself.
Right. Well, it's kind of like Venom because Todd McFarlane Venom, so there's that Venom connection. So,
and that's why I've always said. Back in the day when people were like, they can't make a Venom suit, it wouldn't look good on TV. I'm like, they did Spawn in 97, and Spawn looked fine for 97, the suit part. So I'm like, you could have done Venom for a while.
Yeah, no, I can agree with that. I think it moved well, obviously being that practical suit. It wasn't like something like they do now with, the MCU where part of the suit is practical for some of them and then some of it is like, CGI. Some of it's CGI. I think, having that full practical suit and then obviously the Micheal Jai White, Al Simmons makeup, it all kind of flowed very well together, and like you said, had that kind of nice texture to it.
I do think the practical stuff they did in this was good. Like, I think the suit looks good. I think one thing you just struggle with back at this time was like when Spawn does have the mask on, because I'd like to see him have the mask on more.
Sure.
But when he has the mask on, there's just no way to get emotion from it.
Yeah.
Like you just
Spider-Man,
have to cover that up.
Now you got the eyes. Yeah. They do the stuff with the eyes.
And that's probably all CGI now. But
but
they couldn't do that then, or way too much then. So you do have to have him walk around without the mask on for a lot of it. It's like, okay, I'm just looking at this burnt guy. I'd rather be looking at cool Spawn mask.
You're trying to say he's gross?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Damn. Sorry, I don't mean to like insult burn victims, but
not cool. Well, let's talk about the narrative a little bit. Kind of. And
was there?
I mean, there was definitely a narrative.
Yeah,
I think, I remembered it being somewhat dark. There were some things I remembered, some things I didn't, some things I misremembered. So you got, Al Simmons, the assassin. I remember that part, and I remember Martin Sheen and the Wynn character who, sets him up to die, obviously under the guy under the guess, the command
Yeah.
of the Violator, John Lequizamo. One thing that I misremembered though is I thought Terry, the D.B Sweeney character, in my mind for some reason I thought he was also in on it. Like he
Oh, he's
really
the bad
wanted,
guy too.
yeah, and he really wanted Wanda, and so he kind of worked with Wynn to take down Al. I don't know why I thought that, and I don't know if that's a D.B Sweeney thing. Like
Yeah.
I just have that side-eyed D.B Sweeney thing going on here.
I don't
no
know.
offense, man, if you're out there.
No offense. I can't tell if I remembered more of his backstory just from like really loving the Spawn cartoon and like
Yeah.
kind of following some Spawn a little bit back in the day because the Halloween, the cartoon was great, the toys were amazing, the McFarlane toys were so sick.
Oh sure.
So like I feel like I knew a little bit of his backstory, so I kind of remembered that he was the assassin that got set up and that his best friend ends up marrying his wife and all that stuff. So I kind of remember that, but I couldn't place if I remembered it from the movie or from the outside like literature and exposure to the character.
Yeah, that's fair. I think, like I said, I don't know if it was just like I said, a weird aversion to D.B Sweeney or what, but I for some reason I thought
he's
Terry
got to
was in
suck,
on it.
right? He has to suck.
He's got that weird goatee.
Yeah.
He's got the bad guy goatee, man.
What do you think about John Leguizamo as Clown?
You know what? I'm gonna make I don't know if this is a hot take, but I'm gonna stake my flag in the ground. I think he's the best part of this movie.
Yeah. Hard to argue that.
Yeah.
Hard to argue that. I think maybe too much of him at times.
Maybe. Maybe there's a couple parts where you can say like maybe they were riffing or whatever. He was riffing and he kind of took it a step too far. But I don't know. I think for the most part, like he kept a liveliness to the movie that I think it needed.
So I've seen Micheal Jai White say in the past like there was a more serious version of the movie made at one time, and they kind of through reshoots like added a lot more comedy, and to me that totally feels like a lot more clown.
Yeah,
because he's the only thing that is funny in the movie, kind of funny in the movie, or tries to attempt to be funny in the movie. So I don't know pacing wise, like what would be better, like what would be a better movie, because it's like it's not the deepest movie. Like Spawn's only objective once he becomes Spawn is to kill Martin Sheen. And for an hour, he's like, I'm just going to kill you, and it seems like it could be so easily done that you're like, how's this going to go on for an hour?
Sure. I mean, I think there's a bit of it that, it has to be that there's that chess game that the Violator is kind of playing, where he kind of convinces Wynn to put the trigger in his heart and all of that. And I think that stuff, works, I think, because it kind of, it makes Spawn have this choice that he has to make where it's, it's his choice to end the world,
right,
or not. And, obviously that's the end goal. They want him to end the world. So, the build up to that I thought made sense.
I guess my only plot hole there would be I would just be like, why don't you just kill him yourself? Like, why do you need Spawn to kill him? And like, why doesn't Clown just kill him? I don't get it. Maybe like he has to be the one that kills him because that'll put him in control of those souls. Like, maybe just one more line of dialogue to tell me like, why do you need Al Simmons to be the killer here?
I can agree with that 100%. Yeah. As far as like why they want Al Simmons so much, I don't know. I mean, he is an effective assassin, but so is that other lady.
Well, Clown could have gone up to him and slit his throat anytime he wanted to.
Or that too, yeah. And I mean, it even says at one point where he's like, I should be the one leading the army. I'm
do it.
Like, yeah. So it does seem a little weird, maybe a little convoluted. And, there could have been something more with
and I hate in movies, and this is the thing that I think is kind of distracting, or not distract, but just like you kind of said, they were building up something kind of cool with that heart implant on Martin Sheen's character. So you're like, okay, how is he going to be able to kill Martin Sheen and not have this heart thing go off? Well, he magically takes it out of his body and breaks it.
Right, but it doesn't kill him anyway.
I know. Yeah, but I mean, it was kind of, but it was like the removal of the heart thing, which is like the MacGuffin of the movie in some ways, is like super lame.
Yeah, no, I can agree. Yeah, I think that was a bit. So I will say there was a lot of this movie that felt very easily gained.
Yeah,
there was a lot of problems that were easily solved. I think pacing, it moved very fast.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's only 97 minutes long with credits.
That's the director's cut.
Right.
The non-director's cut is 96 minutes.
Yeah. So right there you go. So it's definitely moving at a clip.
Yeah.
And I think that again, another hot take, maybe another flag in the sand or line of whatever metaphor you want to use. I think the biggest enemy of this movie isn't the CGI or the effects. It's time.
Sure.
I think it just comes off in the end as a movie that the studio should have allowed to have more time. I think if it was a 2-hour movie instead of a 97-minute movie,
Yeah.
I think the narrative would have felt better.
Yeah, I definitely think, Spawn as a character, he is like a really good anti-hero, right? Like he was murdered. His family moved on while he was gone. He's a burned, he's absolutely burned and traumatized, and he's made this deal with the devil. Like he's a prisoner. He's got a lot of things that you would want to root for him for, to like dig himself out of this hole. And I don't feel like you ever like really like rooting for him, because I feel like they kind of just speed through. Like you're not rooting for him to fail,
Right.
but like you're not like, it's hard to be like, do I want him to move on from Wanda? Like, what am I? There's no other new love interest. Like they kind of introduce this kid, so like, okay, maybe he can kind of be fatherly here, but they don't really do much with that there. Like, I'm like, what am I really rooting for? Am I just rooting for him to get revenge on the guy that killed him? Like it's just too flat.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that comes from that speedy first act. It does. It just you can't buy into the Al Simmons character and his family dynamic or anything like that. I mean, he's basically I think he's killed within the first 15 minutes of the movie.
He only has one scene where he's even near his wife, and it's her driving away, talking to Terry, saying make sure he's back for dinner, and so like you don't even see them. You see them in flashbacks, like hug and kiss a little, but you don't actually ever see them like have a scene together where they express how much they love each other.
Exactly. So kind of having that emotional attachment, it's just not there.
And maybe they shot some of the stuff and they thought the 2-hour movie was just not going to be paced right, but like you lose a lot with that. Like you said, clown is the best aspect of this movie, and that's not good when the movie's not called Clown. The movie is called Spawn, so Spawn needs to be the best thing about your movie.
Well, and it sucks too, because I feel like some of that falls on Micheal Jai White, or unfairly, I should say. Like it's like it's looked at like he's not doing his job, and I think unfortunately it's just that's what he was given.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I think the fault's on the page.
Yeah, I don't think it's his fault. I don't think it's necessarily a bad performance. Yeah, it's a little stunted. Yeah, it's a little stilted. But I think overall, if he had a little more emotional narrative to chew on, maybe he could have gotten something a little bit more out of it.
Yeah, no, I think it's, like I said, some of it's like, it's low-hanging fruit. This guy was murdered. He went to hell. He comes back and his family's gone. It's like he's got things to be a sympathetic hero for, and they just don't really, they don't give him anything to chew off the bone with it.
Yeah, I think, I will say the scene where he comes to the birthday party, where Al Simmons comes to the birthday party, and Cyan's birthday party,
his wife's daughter.
Right. That hit pretty well. I think if there was an emotional high point of the movie, it was probably that scene. I think if I felt anything for Al Simmons as a character, that was probably the scene I felt it the most in.
My only thing I would critique about that scene is like, I would like to, like, he was in so much physical pain because he's like just transitioning.
Right.
That like you don't get to see the emotional pain because he's in physical pain. Like it'd been cooler if he was like 100% ready to go and he's there and you see that like heart pain, like pain in the heart from seeing that.
I mean, I think it was both in there. I
know,
think
but he's like crawling on the ground, like in agony. So it's like, you know what I mean? It's like,
I guess. I mean, maybe it's just because I'm putting myself in his shoes or whatever. But I think I think that's an effective tool as a filmmaker. If you're able to say, okay, well, even if your character's feeling something, but maybe you can't necessarily show it because, like you said, the physical pain was overshadowing everything else. If you can get your audience to feel the emotional pain on top of that, I think that's a win. So I'm like I said, I think I would put that scene in a win, like in the win box for them, as especially in a movie where like the emotional high points aren't really
not
there.
Very high.
Right,
hills
are very
high.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I know. I agree with you. Like I said, like that's the kind of stuff that I would want to see him act in. Like if Micheal Jai White's gonna like be able to win this movie, I would like to see him have to choose to walk away. Like almost like you see him more in the basketball court or in the park with Cyan one-on-one where he's letting her go. Like I think that's closer to what I want to see. Like he's looking at the life he could have, knows he doesn't have it, and then like choosing somehow to move on or protect them. Like that's the heartstrings I think you need to pull at, and they kind of do, but I just don't know if they ever hit. Because he's got the one good scene in the basketball court, but it's followed immediately by clowns cheerleading scene.
Again, it's like you're right. It's like they kind of get to that point where it's like, okay, we need a joke,
right?
So let's get clown in here to do some
I'm
kind
like, no,
of a
you
joke.
don't need a joke. You don't. We're talking about a guy from hell. It doesn't have to be a comedy. Like, it was
Right.
supposed to be a rated R movie at one point.
Right. Yeah. And I wish they did. And
Yeah.
if if the remake that they've talked about ever happens, it
Oh,
needs
I'm
to
sure.
be like
I'm sure
it
it will
would
be.
need to be rated R because I understand why a studio wouldn't have made it that way then, because a rated R movie for a movie like this was kind of, if they were trying to hit that younger teen audience, it was a death sentence,
Yeah.
So they're like, okay, we need a PG-13 movie because we're going to want these younger teens in the theater. So they cut down what they needed to cut down.
Yeah.
But I think now with things like Deadpool being out there,
Sure.
a rated R comic book movie can work. And
Absolutely.
I think that's something that if you're gonna make this movie, that's the only way they can do it.
Yeah. Speaking of Cyan, the daughter, do you think it would be far fetched to say that I think the daughter was at her age of like 5 in this movie was a better actress than his wife was? Because
Teresa Randall?
She was stiff as a board in this movie. I thought she was horrible.
I mean, I can agree. I don't think it's necessarily on her. Teresa Randall's, I've seen her in other things. She's not bad. I think it's what they're given.
Yeah.
You know what I
mean?
Her
first scene when she's like leaving, she's like, make sure he's back by dinner tomorrow. And he says, I'll try. And she's like, make sure he's back by dinner tomorrow. It's just so flat to me. I'm like, show a little anger, some feisto. I don't know. I just thought she stunk. But I thought the daughter was great because I still like the scene that hits me is when they're leaving Spaz in the park and she's like, Terry's like he knows his way home better than we do. And she's like, okay. I was like, get that girl her dog, man.
That's just because again, you kids and animals. You want to get an emotional reaction from the audience. You got to do something with kids and animals. All right, well, this has got both.
Spawn will take care of the dog. Don't worry. But.
Absolutely. Another character that I thought was underutilized, I will say, and could have done more is Cogliostro.
Yeah.
I think.
Or is it G silent like in the word lasagna? It's Cogliostro.
Oh, is it Cogliostro?
I think so because it's Italian. But I think Clown said Cogliostro. Like I couldn't tell if he was just didn't notice.
Well, because I've seen it. Like I've seen him referred to as Cog, like as the name. He? Like just in like comics and stuff I've seen, or in like written. Yeah, I've seen him referred to as Cog. So again, just the
who cares?
Version.
I was just messing around anyway.
Oh, you're just trying to show your Italianism there. So okay,
like
trying to add Italian me.
Yeah.
But either way, I think he, as a senpai kind of Mr. Miyagi-esque type character, I think the setup was interesting. Kind of having him follow Al around for a bit before interjecting himself. But it was again kind of a situation where once he finally does insert himself and they have the training montage again like it's a training montage, right?
Montage.
And I'm just like, okay, like all right,
yeah.
And then the big thing is that he can get the bottle with the and he does it once. You know what I mean? It's not even like you see him fail.
You broke a bottle. You are ready to fight the devil.
You did this. You can break. If you can break a bottle, you can break the devil.
Like the Rocky montages look like they take weeks. This literally took like it took 4 minutes.
I know.
Like of actual time, not filming time. Like of actual time. It took like 4 minutes. Like, all right, break this bottle. Okay, you're good. Let's go. Move on. I don't have time for this. But like I said, it is an interesting setup because it's like Clown is the devil on his shoulder and Cogliostro is the angel, right? So he's got this like pulling of forces. Do I do good or do I do bad? But like to me, again, I was always like, he signed this pact with the devil, and Cogliostro's like, you don't have to follow it, and I'm like, I think he does. Like, tell me like what I think I struggled because I didn't know what would happen if he didn't do it.
Right.
So I'm like, is the devil just gonna like be mad and pissed but not do anything, or like can he suck him back into hell if he doesn't do it? Like I think he has to do it.
I think some of the stakes are a bit muddled as we kind of talked about earlier, and what happens like what happens if he doesn't, and if he decides not to take the army, well, are the bombs still gonna go off, and then was Violator gonna lead the army? Like is the war over? Like is everything hinge on Al Simmons saying and I think I can agree that they needed to define their terms a little bit more in this. I think the Cogliostro character, while I think he added some interesting elements, maybe visual elements and stuff like that, as far as the film's concerned, and obviously I'm not speaking about the comic book at all, I wish he kind of drove the narrative a little bit more.
I just, like, I don't remember the cartoon, like, beat for beat or maybe even all that well at all.
I don't remember.
But I do remember the cartoon being awesome.
Yeah.
And I do remember Cagliostro being in it, being pretty cool character.
Yeah.
So it's like I don't get why it seems so flat. And I also remember like Jessica Priest, like her character I think is pretty cool in the comics, but like not anything in this. And
I actually read she's not in the comics.
well, I know there's maybe that name, but I know there's like ton of like impactful women enemies like Angelica or whatever, but that just don't really show up here. But it's like super powerful redheaded. So I feel like that's what Jessica Priest symbolized, but it was just a horrible movie version of it.
Yeah. Where is it? I have it here. So in the Al Simmons murder in the comics is a guy named Chapel, not Jessica Priest. Jessica Priest was created simply for the film, but then the comic books later retconned her into them and would take the place of Al's killer or something. So like it was, it seems very kind of weird. That's on the wiki page. That's all I know, but I have not read the comics at all, so I have no idea. But
I just remember because the cartoon actually came out the same year as this movie.
Right.
And so I remember watching them and being like, and this is one of those few things, when you're young and you go to the movies and you're like, this isn't like really what I was hoping for. I don't know why at that age, but I'm like, this just isn't it.
Yeah. Well, I do remember again, we could probably do a whole other episode of this show just on the cartoon because it's the same thing. I probably have not watched it since then. But I do remember it being a lot darker than what they made the movie, and I think that's intentional.
Yeah. No, for sure. Was there anything else from the movie that you feel like you really remembered, like something that stood out when you saw it? Like, for me, I know Clown eating the pizza with a bunch of the maggots on it.
I actually wrote that one down. Yeah,
I remember that. And I know that was real. Like, when when John Leguizamo's running off, he runs off and goes pukes. Like, I know I've seen that and written down many times.
I think most of my memories of this movie really, unfortunately, revolve around Violator. Like some of the funny lines and stuff. Like every time an angel farts, a demon gets their wings. Like I just love that line. I remembered it as soon as I heard it. Like I totally remember that line. It's hilarious because then he farts.
I'll tell you one line I hated that I had to write down. It was like Spawn's about to kill somebody, and he's like, "Where are you from, Halloween or something?" He's like, "Where you're going every day is Halloween." I was like, "What?"
That was Jessica Priest. Yeah.
I'm like, it's like Halloween every day in hell? What does that mean? That sounds like it's a pretty fun time. Like, that's a great day.
Yeah. Something else that I remembered and it hit me as soon as it happened was when Al dies and how bad the Wanda yell is.
It's like Darth Vader.
I was gonna say, you know where I'm going with this. You know how I hate.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but it's like one of my bugaboos is where it's like people do no. Like I cannot take that in a movie. It's so hard. It's so grating, and that was basically just as bad as that.
Yeah, it was. And as soon as I saw him do that, I thought of you, and I'm like, you are hating this.
Yep. Because it's one of those things. I don't know why. It bothers me every time I see it in a movie. Outside of this effects, but like I said, some of the effects in my mind, I remembered, probably not aging well. I think that's more of it. Like, it's like I didn't remember them being bad per se. I just, in my mind, I'm like, I know these aren't going to be as good. And some of them, I think, like I said, were better than what I remembered.
Yeah.
So I think as far as that goes, that's another kind of win, where like some of them were bad or worse than I remembered.
Right.
And then some of them were actually not bad.
They held up. I think we came in with low expectations.
That is fair. Rock bottom expectations. What about you? How about anything you may have?
I think those were it. Like a lot of it was Clown. It was the eating the pizza with all the maggots on it, the cheerleading scene, and then I just, like I said, I remembered really liking the Spawn suit, and I still think I did. Like, I liked that it had this little slimy, almost looked alive, like it looked like a very uncomfortable suit to be wearing.
Yeah.
But I think he's got a really visually pleasing look. He just looks like a badass. So I still think that comes across.
Yeah. I think Spawn is definitely a movie of its decade.
Yeah.
We kind of talked about this with Barbed Wire, and I think we may even have mentioned Barbed Wire in the beginning section of this episode. Obviously this was a completely different time for comic book movies.
Right.
most of the time they were one-offs. There was no such thing as a franchise outside
They
of
weren't
Batman.
good enough. Yeah.
You know, Batman was the only one in the '90s that had any kind of franchise to it, and you know everything else was kind of like small experimentations.
Right.
And you know, I think everybody was kind of just trying something, and I think Spawn, especially because you know, being the month of October, a movie that I watch every October, it's one of Andrea's favorites. We watch it every year. Is The Crow. And I feel like I see a lot of The Crow in Spawn, where it's like this studio wanted this to be their Crow.
Yeah.
And but they always had to put their own little spin on it. You know, it had to have its own feeling. So it's, you know, it doesn't necessarily feel like The Crow tonally. You know, it's a bit different. It's a little more bombastic. You know, especially with something like, you know, Violator and stuff like that, more comedic, because The Crow is not in any way, shape, or form. And you know, even going as far as, you know, and I think I may have said this in other episodes, where a movie that's made for its soundtrack.
Yeah.
You know, so The Crow has an amazing soundtrack. It's literally one of my favorite, you know, popular music soundtracks of ever. I mean, I listen to it constantly. There's so many good songs on there. And I feel like they were kind of trying to go for that with this movie.
Yes.
But they did their own spin on it, because I actually owned the soundtrack to this movie. I did not.
It's very cult classically popular, the soundtrack.
It definitely is, because there's some big songs on here. And so what they did was they took a rock artist and like put them with a techno artist, and they did a remix. Like that's kind of what the whole soundtrack was, you know, like I think there's like a remix of Metallica's For Whom the Bell Tolls on here. But the one song that you're definitely, you know, kind of cult classic off this is Long Hard Road Out of Hell by Marilyn Manson.
Right.
Like that is, you know, that was a staple in his stage show for a long time, still to this day, as far as I know. But, you know, so again, it's that same kind of thing where, you know, they realized, and I don't know if this is like an MTV thing. You know what I mean? Like kind of
very
like,
possible.
You know what I mean? Like where a movie like this kind of had to have a soundtrack.
You got to get
like
on
that.
TRL.
Right, or just have have, you know, how integrating the like popular music into your movie can draw people in. Yeah. You know what I mean? And
look at James Gunn and Guardians of the Galaxies. Like that was huge. Those soundtracks were huge for those movies.
Right, and MTV's dead now, so like, it's still to this day. But again, like I think I in my mind, I think it probably stems from the MTV generation of just knowing how popular music can draw people in, and that's why these types of movies were so hell bent on you know, having that soundtrack, you know, that killer kind of rock soundtrack that, you know, people would go out and connect with, even if they didn't even necessarily connect with the movie, which Spawn was going to be that.
Yeah, it's a shame that they did hit a home run with the soundtrack, but just not the other side. The movie just kind of falls flat. So, well, I guess maybe saying that, got to think about, does this movie hold up for you? I think we've kind of revealed our cards, but...
Well, before we do that, we teased something in the beginning, which is... the story of how Ray and I first saw Spawn. So before we get to that, before we talk about if it held up, let's talk about how the very first time we saw it.
Yes, we gotta go there.
So where we live, where we grew up, there was a place called the Cinema Cafe, which, if anybody is familiar with the Alamo Draft House, it is the crap version of that.
Yeah, probably thousands of these. There were old movies for the most part.
Yeah. But again, sit down, you know, at a table, and not rows like you would go to a movie theater, and you would eat real food and watch the movie, and
with a waitress
and everything.
You know, serving staff.
with a waitress, and we went and saw Spawn with a group of our friends, and we were the only. If I remember correctly, we were the only table in the entire theater.
Yeah, we might have been the only people that went to that theater for the last month.
It's very possible. So we go to this movie, and we watch Spawn. We all eat our dinner and everything. There's one waitress takes care of our whole table. And at the end, she comes and she brings our bills. And we basically just hand her all of our money.
Yeah, we basically pay like it's all on one bill, I think.
I can't remember.
I think it's all on one bill, but we all paid like individually. So like I had a 20, and then maybe the bill was like $16, but I'm like, well, here's my 10. You're like, well, here's my 10. He's like, well, here's my 10. So we ended up giving her like $30.
Yeah, way
on
over
a $16 bill because we're all just paying individually. We didn't want to like owe each other.
Right. And so
she never came back.
She never comes back, and we're like, what the hell? We need our change, and she never comes.
We're like
back.
in 6th grade here, so we're not like old men doing this.
No, yes. So we're kids and we're waiting, and then finally she comes out, and I don't remember if one of us was just like, "Hey."
I did. I know I did. I was like, "Where's my change?"
So Ray was like, "Where's my change?" And she got so mad.
Yeah.
She was like, "You guys need to know. Your parents need to teach you how to come to a place like this if you're gonna come to a place like this. So you need to know how to tip or whatever." So she goes and she gets her change, brings it back.
And we're pissed.
And we're pissed, so we stiff her and we don't give her anything.
I think we left a penny.
Maybe we left a penny.
I think we left a penny. I think nothing. I think a penny is even worse.
It's kind of an embarrassing story to tell now.
Well, I mean, it was totally our fault, but I was like, you also like, all right, we're not giving you 100% tip. We're 12 years old. We're not, or 10 years old, 11 years, how old we were. We're not giving you like 100% tip on a $16.
This was 97, so what have we were in 14. Roughly?
Probably 13.
13
hadn't turned 14
yeah.
yet.
So, yeah, I mean, it she could have been a little more understanding, but she was just so mean about it. But, okay, so...
Totally distracting from the end of the movie.
But I think and we'll always remember that, maybe even more than the movie, but clearly, because that's why we're doing this podcast. But I have to ask, so I know you and I kind of both live by the same motto a bit. It's not tipping we believe in. It's over.
We're great tippers.
Now we're over tippers. Is it because of this?
Yeah, probably.
Is it because of this?
We were still going to tip her individually, like fairly, but like we just wanted individual change. But we should have asked for separate checks, or however we should have done it. But we didn't do it right. But she compounded and made it worse.
Exactly. But so as an adult now, obviously I have no idea this woman's name. If you ever happen to hear this and you remember back in 1997 that there was a bunch of dumb young teenage boys at your table at the Cinema Cafe and we stiffed you, I am sorry.
I'm less sorry, but I feel like we should talk about it and hash it. We should hash it out. Come to mutual agreement, and I'll leave you like a $5 bill. I'll give her $5.
Right, but again, it made it a memorable theatrical experience for us watching Spawn, and I remember, again, liking the movie at the time, despite our poor theater experience in that regard. But I do remember liking the movie. Now we can get to the question. That was how we felt about it then. Now we got to find out how we feel about it now.
Yeah, I think for me, maybe that distraction with the waitress, and I wasn't able to focus in on the third act, made me think I liked the movie more than I actually did, because I do not think this movie holds up. I think Spawn as a character can definitely be a successful franchise. I don't feel like the character sucks, but I think this movie kind of sucks. Like there's just not enough there for me. As you said, the movie's called Spawn, and when the movie's called Spawn, Spawn has to be the most interesting character of the movie, and he's got all the backstory to make that happen, but the movie isn't able to do it. Clown is the most interesting person. Clown's the one you want to keep constantly watching. So that is a fail, and that's like the biggest fail you can have, I think. And again, I think the movie's there's just too many holes. The villain wasn't really interesting, like because Clown kind of isn't really. He is the villain, but he's kind of doesn't play himself as a villain. So
he's kind of the henchman.
Yeah,
of the
Martin
main
Sheen's character is just kind of boring.
Sheen is President Kennedy, you idiot.
I loved him in The West Wing at this time. Another disappointing thing, but yeah. So it's just like the movie it misses some of the big things for me. Not even talking about the CGI, which most of it doesn't hold up, but like the story just doesn't work for me. I can't really I don't know if I'll come back to it. I probably won't. What about you?
So I can agree on a lot of it. Like you said, obviously the CGI, I'm just putting that aside because it's fair and unfair. Right. It's 97. It's fair and it's unfair. There was some people that were able to do magic in 97. We just watched Casper recently being the Halloween, and the Casper effects are great, and they still hold up to this day. It's crazy, and that was made 2 years before this.
Yeah, 95.
Yeah, so people were obviously doing good work then, but not everybody was. But I can agree that the story needed more, and like I said before, I think the biggest enemy of Spawn is time. I think it just needed more time. I think it needed another half hour to really let these characters simmer, let this narrative get a hold, instead of just feeling like a sprint. I think the performances were bad in a way that isn't necessarily the actor's fault.
Right.
You know, it's just, again, it's kind of what they were handed and what they kind of had to work with. And sometimes you do get an actor who can take nothing and make, you know, magic out of it. And again, and that's not saying anything bad about Micheal Jai White or anything like that. I agree with you where, you know, when you're watching this movie and the Violator is more charismatic on screen than Spawn is, there's a problem. Yeah, and that could be a tonal issue, kind of like we said. If they had played this more serious, you know, like I had mentioned The Crow, if they had played it more along those lines, you know, Spawn maybe, Spawn might have, you know, it may have gotten a little bit better. But I'm going to take a slightly different turn than you did.
Ooh.
I am. Did the movie hold up? Well, I went in with like rock bottom expectations. Okay. So did it hold up? Yeah. For what I thought it was going to be, it was actually a little better than what I thought it was going to be. Is it a good movie? No, it's not a good movie, but it's better than I thought it was going to be going in. And I can see why people might actually still enjoy it. There is a fun nature to the movie, and I'm not saying it's something you'd revisit often, even if you did revisit it again, but I do think that there is an irreverence to the movie that if they had just allowed it to be what it could have been, I think they really would have had something. And, you know, we have our other show, A Copy of a Copy. If they make a remake of this, I think it, you know, we say all the time, like, why do people make remakes? I think this is a movie that could really use a remake. Because I think if they went in with the modern mindset with this movie, they could really knock it out of the park.
All right, Rob, well, let's wrap up this conversation on Spawn on our end, but not yet on the audience's end. We want them to do some things, and it's nothing disgusting like eating a maggot-filled pizza. It's a lot nicer than that. It's a lot more digestible than that. What we would like the audience to do before they leave is to please like this podcast, subscribe to this channel if you haven't, leave us a 5-star review if you can, because if you do, we'll read it live on air someday. And if you want to reach out to us, email us at carrayrob@gmail.com or reach out to us on Blue Sky at carrayrob.
Absolutely. You can now also follow us on Facebook at Car Ray Rob Podcast Network. Find out about all upcoming episodes.
Do that.
When things are released. Get all of the hot goss all about Car Ray Rob. If there is a comment section on whatever platform you're on, by all means, let us know what you thought of Spawn. Was it hot garbage, like every scene in hell in this movie? Mm-hmm. Or maybe it held up better than what you might have thought it would have?
We would need to know if that is true.
Absolutely. We definitely want to know about that. We will be back next week for my episode of Say Hello to My Little Film. I'm very excited about this one. You inspired me on this one, right?
Ooh, I did.
You did. I'm not going to tell you how.
I did it on purpose.
You clearly did, and I'm not going to tell you how, but just know that. Keep that in your brain. You inspired me to do this. We will be back in 2 weeks with November's A Copy of a Copy, and in celebration of Wicked for Good, Ray and I will be rewatching the original Wizard of Oz, as well as the Motown remake, The Wiz.
I've never seen The Wiz.
It's a fun movie. I think you're going to enjoy it.
I've seen Wizard of Oz a million times.
I know. I probably never have to watch it again, but I'm definitely going to watch it because that's what we do on this podcast. Next month's Hello Movies, my old friend, Ray and I are going to be revisiting, I think, a classic in both of our minds.
Definitely in our minds.
Definitely in our minds, and that is the John Candy, Ali Sheedy romantic comedy?
Yeah.
Only the Lonely.
I remember this as a kid. This was one of my favorite movies as a kid.
Yeah, I remember really enjoying this movie. Maureen O'Hara is also in it. So
she's
as her mom, right? As his mom.
Yeah,
as John Candy's mom. So yeah, I used to watch this a ton when I was a kid, but I have not seen it in 30 years easy.
Yep, and I don't remember what the middle parts of the movie that would keep me interested were, so I want to re-find out.
Definitely. And you're going to want to find out too. But until then, this is Car Ray Rob.
Where I'm Ray.
And I'm Rob. And remember, be defined by the films you love, not the ones you hate. Hello, movies. Hello, movies. Hello, movies. My